Up. Today's April 3rd, 2019. The time is 7:31 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to the same, as provided by law, of a schedule including the in time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Knudsen? Here. Councilman Seaton?
Here.
Councilman Voigt?
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
Mayor Hache?
Here. Please stand for flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence in honor of the brave men and women serving the nation's armed forces and its first responders. Thank you. Before we go to public comment, Village Manager wants to address the parking situation at the train station, given the soon-to-start work on the reconfiguration.
Correct. So the construction was to begin today. It actually will not begin until Monday, April 8th. It will continue for the next 3 to 4 months for renovation and addition of 35 parking spaces. During the construction, up to 40 parking spaces may not be available as a train station lot. Premium parking permits, which are currently used at the train station, may be used in all lots, and we've decided to open up Hudson Street lot, the furthest 3 rows from Broad Street. They're the closest to the buildings on Hudson Street. So the last 3 rows from Broad Street. And so they can use those rows as well as the Prospect lot, the Chestnut lot, the North Walnut lot, and the Cottage Place lot. They cannot park in, permit holders may not park in Shoppers Diners or Central Business District employee spots, or in the Hudson lot permits only spots. And commuters who are currently paying meters or using Park Mobile at the train station will find additional parking at the Cottage Place lot using the kiosk or Park Mobile. So there will be some spaces available every day, and those will shift as the construction continues. At times, there may only be 20 spaces that aren't available, other there may be up to 40. We just ask that residents please make alternate travel plans to and from the train station, allow for extra time. In the event of severe weather, the work may be postponed, and please obey all posted signs and do not travel through barricaded areas. This morning and tomorrow and Friday, there are flyers that were put onto cars currently in the train station, notifying them of this. And then also, we just thank all of our residents for their patience and cooperation during this construction. I want to thank Mayor Hache and Deputy Mayor Knudsen for working with me to come to this conclusion and this resolution of this issue. We did not have as much advance notice as we expected. Part of it was these contracts were signed in January of this year, and they said that they would start the construction when the weather broke. The weather, we're fortunate, it's early April and it's already getting warm, so they were ready to go. Fortunately for us, the contractor did say he would delay it till Monday. I think by that time most people should know. I did send out a revised e-notice this afternoon. And so anyone who subscribed to e-notice got that information as well. It's on our village website. There was a error in a New Jersey Transit alert, which indicated it was going to be 3 to 4 weeks. We did go back to the contractor and confirm it's 3 to 4 months. Hopefully the weather will cooperate and possibly they could get done sooner, but right now the projected time frame is 3 to 4 months. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person.
Please be sure you give your name and address.
Hello, Bob Upton of 172 West Glen Avenue and REACT Chair. First of all, the committee organizing the Earth Day event has just asked me to remind everybody that the annual Daffodil Festival and Earth Day Fair will be on April 14th. And we have flyers, so if anybody wants to ask me for them, I have them here. Secondly, we want to thank you for taking up the issue of the single-use plastic bag ban, and I've had a chance to briefly read the proposed ordinance, and meets virtually all of the suggestions that we had made. The one that is a little disappointing is that we feel that mandatory fee for single-use paper bags would be better than an optional fee. This is because by banning the plastic bags, obviously more people will be using paper bags, and the paper bags from the point of view of energy consumption and water consumption are actually less environmentally friendly than the plastic bags. New York State just, part of their budget has adopted a plastic bag ban, and they omitted the mandatory single-use paper bag fee, and most of the environmental organizations have supported their law, except for criticizing the absence of the mandatory paper bag fee. And I think that they've already proposed a separate additional law to limit or to impose a paper bag fee. Having said that, we would still encourage you to pass the ordinance as proposed, because we feel it takes care of the most pressing issue, the plastic bags. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street.
Good evening.
Regarding the single-use plastic bags, which I totally support, I do want you to be aware when you discuss whether dogs can go into the park, that they make single-use biodegradable plastic dog poop bags that can go in those dispensers. So if we could put those up in the parks where dogs are allowed, which I'm hoping it's going to be all the parks that my taxes pay for, but if we do put those up, we should try to get the biodegradable, because obviously those bags are single-use, the poop bags. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I also want to comment on the discussion that took place last week regarding dogs in parks. I maintain my position that dogs should be allowed in any village park so long as the dog is leashed. I know there was some objection to a number of parks. There was an objection to 20 Pond for some reason. There was an objection to Van Ness Square. Don't understand why they can't be allowed on the paved surfaces in Van Ness Square. Also don't understand why they would be allowed at Gypsy Pond but not at 20 Park. I agree with the mayor's comment last week that it's somewhat confusing that you could take your family dog to the Irene Habernickel Family Park and have the kids, while your grandchildren or children are playing a sport there, but you cannot take your dog to Vets Field while the kids are playing there. There seems to be no consistency with respect to where you can take your dog and can't take your dog to watch the kids play, the way the ordinance is established now. I know Councilman Voigt asked for some data in terms of are there bites, there have been reported bites. We're hoping to hear that tonight, specifically with respect to Habernickel where dogs are permitted. Have there been instances up there where the police have been called because dogs are running at large, because dogs are biting people? If in the absence of any reported issues at Habernickel, I don't see why the policy that is currently at Habernickel, which is that dogs are permitted on a leash that doesn't exceed 6 feet in length, why that policy can't be extended to any park. And I realize you've also got an issue with respect to the field policy. Your authority exists with respect to parks that are controlled by the Village of Ridgewood. You have no say-so with respect to properties that are owned by the Board of Education, of course. Why there has to be consistency between village parks and the Board of Education feels, I don't know. I don't understand that. Again, you could take your dog to watch your kids play at Habernickel. You can't take your dog to watch your kids play if they're playing at Vets Field. There's got to be some consistency, and hopefully the consistency you come up with is that dogs are permitted in any park with the exception of Graden Pool, so long as they are on a 6-foot leash and that the waste is properly disposed of. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll close public comments and move on to the agenda.
The manager's report. The Hudson Street parking lot potholes have been patched and repaired, providing a better surface. It's the train station parking lot, again, we know is under construction. The Parks and Recreation Department is now selling annual grading pool memberships at a 10% discount until April 30th. If you're a Ridgewood resident and a seasonal member, this year you will be able to purchase a coupon book at the badge office for $150. That's 11 passes for the price of 10. Registration for summer day camp has also started and will be open until the cutoff of June 10th. After that time, there is an additional $50 fee. Shred Day in Ridgewood will take place on Saturday, April 13th, not on April 6th, as was listed in the village calendar. In the Graden Pool parking lot from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., rain or shine. You'll be able to watch your documents on camera as they are securely shredded by Information Destruction Systems for Recycling by Atlantic Coast Fibers. Limited 5 full-size boxes, file-size boxes per vehicle. Free to all Ridgewood residents and businesses only. Place items for shredding in a paper bag or a cardboard box, and no plastic bags will be allowed. As Mr. Upton mentioned, the Daffodil Festival and Earth Day celebration is scheduled for Sunday, April 14th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. The Board of Education election will be held on Tuesday, April 16th. The polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. This year, the vote is on the budget only. Household hazardous waste collection, including fire extinguishers, fluorescent light bulbs, insecticides, kerosene, propane gas cylinders, will take place on Sunday, April 14th at Bergen Community College from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., rain or shine. And I just want to remind everyone to sign up for e-notices by clicking on the button, sign up for alerts at the bottom of the village website.
Okay, thank you. Council reports. Councilman Seaton.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it looks like Earth Day and the Daffodil Festival have been covered, so I don't have to go back and do that for the third time. But April 22nd, there will be an event at the Ridgewood Library, Rock Your Earth Day, for children grades 3 to 5 with parents, and it will be from 4 to 5 p.m. There will be a showing of the film Schoolhouse Rocks, Earth, and there will be an interactive portion of the movie so that kids could learn about the environment and different things they could do at home to help reduce waste and just live a I guess greener kind of existence. And that will be hosted by myself and Mr. Upton, who's here today. There will also be a styrofoam drive May 18th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Graden parking lot. So if anybody has styrofoam still left over from holidays or anything like that, you could take it and get rid of it on May 18th. And then on April 24th, there will be a discussion involving the 12 permaculture principles for anyone interested in the environment, and that will be held from 6:45 to 9 p.m. at the stable, and again, that's April 24th, and that's everything I have right now, so thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Planning board meeting was canceled last evening, and therefore the master plan committee will be meeting next Tuesday, 7:30, right here in the caucus room to bring everyone up to speed and update our progress on our visioning process. I just remind everyone to visit visionridgewood.org, participate in the vision process for the future master plan of the village of Ridgewood. Is the future, not 10, not 20, but 50 years from today, what we want the village to look like, what we want to leave for generations to come. I encourage everyone to take a few moments and visit the website, take the survey. If you do not have access to the computer, you can contact the, I'm sorry? Okay. If you don't have access to a website, please contact the village clerk's office at 500 extension 201. Request a hard copy, and that can be returned to the village clerk's office, and it will be manually input. So we look forward to everybody's participation. Please jump on board and be part of the future. Thank you.
Councilor Walsh?
Thank you. So the only thing I have to report on is that I had the pleasure of attending the Authors Luncheon, the Ridgewood Library, Friends of the Library Author Luncheon, along with Councilman Voigt. And it was a great evening, or great afternoon. Thank you. Min-Jin Lee, who is New York Times bestseller of the book Pachinko. That's her most popular book. There were 450 attendees. It was a sold-out crowd. They had a silent auction. It was a wonderful event, and I didn't realize how many people I knew in Ridgewood until you attend an event like that and go table to table and see everybody. So it was really a great event. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Boyd?
Thank you, Mayor. The Community Center Advisory Board met last Thursday afternoon. Couple of updates. They're in the process of purchasing 6 computers with a grant from the American Stewardship Bank. We want to thank the American Stewardship Bank for their...
Columbia Savings Bank.
Whoops. Columbia Savings Bank, I apologize. Thank you for correcting me. All right. Age-friendly Ridgewood's having a May 9th steering committee meeting at the library starting at 12:30 p.m. NV5 will be there. May 22nd, Age Friendly is holding a Get to Know Your Bus for new potential bus users. More information can be found on the Age Friendly website. Upcoming mixers at the Community Center, April 26th for 6th graders, DJ and Pizza from, I believe it's 7:30 to 9 p.m. May 17th for 7th and 8th graders in the Community Center, a trivia night from 7 to 8:30 p.m. May 31st for 5th graders, pizza and ice cream. Those going to George GW after graduation from the elementary schools, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. For pizza and ice cream, and then there's going to BF, 8 to 9 p.m. April 8th, there will be a Ridgewood High School Quiz Bowl starting at 7 p.m. The mayor and the council are welcome to attend to be trivia'd and questioned. I believe it's at the Student Center. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think so. Sunday, June 9th, Art Beat at the Cashow Band Shell for students. June 9th, as well, there'll be a film festival at the Community Center, again, for fledgling or aspiring student filmmakers. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one update. At the Fields Committee meeting last night, we've got an update from the different sports groups that have been working on the project to install permanent lights at Maple Field. When the field was first installed many years ago, I know that some of the residents had concerns about having permanent lights there, so instead we placed temporary lights, and so instead of ending up with a light problem because it's a significant canopy around the field, we ended up with a noise pollution problem because those generators are pretty loud and they kind of bounce off the area there. So we looked at some really amazing designs in the lights where there's very little light bleed pollution emanating from the field. Obviously eliminates the sound from the generators, and looks like there's enough buy-in from the sports groups to be able to cover the funding along with the grant money that we have applied and and what the village would put in from reserve. So we just started a discussion now. Next step is to reach out to all the residents in the area and bring them in and tell them what the plan is and hear what their concerns and worries are. So that's all I have.
So moving on to discussion items, the first is Ridgewood Water, awarding a contract for the purchase of bulk water. As you know, we currently purchase bulk water from both Suez and the Borough of Hawthorne. This is bulk water purchase with Passaic Valley Water Commission. That water supply is derived from surface water and is treated at their treatment plant in Totowa. Ridgewood will purchase a minimum of $300 million per day of potable water per year. And it's a very excellent rate for us. The annual volume will cost us $830,187. Comparably, the rates for purchasing from Hawthorne or Suez for 1 MGD is $3,100 and $3,850 respectively. The purchase requires the construction of a pipeline and completion of a water quality study, so there will be no volume purchase in 2019. We anticipate the completion of the water quality study and the contract documents for bidding the pipeline this year, and it would allow Ridgewood Water a period of 2 years from the signature of the contract to complete the study and construct the pipeline. During this period, no charges will be levied upon Ridgewood Water by PVWC. In addition, they have committed to paying for the cost of treatment equipment necessary for corrosion control of their supply before entering Ridgewood Water distribution system. We are asking for the approval now so that the volume, we're committed to that volume. We don't want others to go and try to get that volume from PVWC or any other acts that may reduce the permitted capacity of PVWC to provide this bulk sale. So this will be a resolution to enter into a contract for the purchase of this bulk water.
Just when you get a chance, can we get the cost on the pipeline? Maybe just
Okay.
send it to us, that would be
Do
helpful.
you know that offhand? Okay, I'll have Dan Timoney come up.
I forgot Dan was actually sitting back there. Hello.
He's our business manager for Ridgewood Water.
Were you anticipating that question?
What's that?
Were you anticipating that question?
Potentially, sure, but I have information. So the pipeline itself, including the design of the pipeline and the water quality study, all in terms of what we put into the budget, we actually put $2.16 million into the capital budget for 2019. And we expect that would be the cost of the pipeline. It comes in at Wagaraw Road, around that Hawthorne-Patterson border. And then Passaic Valley would make the connection there, and we would just basically take it up the hill and connect our system into Southside Tank.
Okay, got it.
Dan, how long is the contract for?
I believe
5 years.
5 years?
2025, right,
25 years?
25 years,
Yes.
okay. Wow.
And the rationale, of course, behind this is resiliency in the system. A, it's at a good rate. B, with everything going on the emerging contaminants front, we don't know what's going to get taken offline when. And as you know from our own situation, every water utility has an allocation that they receive from the DEP. So there's only a certain amount of water they're able to either draw out of the ground or that surface body for any period of time. So every individual relationship between water utilities is tracked by the DEP. They have to approve and sign off on each of those things. So as such, it's why we're asking to do this now, because Passaic Valley has other folks who would want to claim that allocation if we didn't.
Is that price of $2,767.29 per millions of gallons good for the 25 years, or does it go up or down?
I will find out. I don't know the answer, but I can find that out for
There's a
the next
possibility
meeting.
it will increase.
It will. Possibility it will?
Yeah.
I mean,
But the starting point is way below.
Yeah.
Well below the Suez
Is that
and
in the
Hawthorne.
schedule as far as what the increase could be or not?
No, I don't believe it's in a schedule, no.
Okay. Could we find that out? I mean, because if they start to...
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to be able to put, I mean, I'll leave it to Dan to find it, but I don't think you're going to be able to anticipate what the cost is
What the
going
cost
to be
would
in
be
year
going
24.
forward. Right.
So,
But is
Because
it,
it would be based off of their capital expenditure, and then that would,
and again, this is water that gets pulled in probably normally during the summertime.
Yep.
As a result of all the usage that goes on. And it's a much better alternative than having to rely on Hawthorne and Suez.
and as opposed to the Suez agreement where it's take or pay agreement, but we actually have to take throughout the entire year, we don't have to do that in this agreement, so we really get to focus our usage from Passaic Valley during those periods, and we actually need to supplement supply.
I'm pretty sure it's pay for what you use as opposed to the minimum requirement with Suez, minimum payment with Suez.
So in the absence of having a sort of set schedule, how do we ensure that we're not all of a sudden paying some exorbitant amount of money for this compared to...
There are
the
outs,
other payments?
there are outs, ways of terminating the contract in terms of that, so that'll do. But I think, if you want some, this actually has been looked at since, for a year now at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is something that, it's not just completely brand new.
Yeah, no, it's a 10-day out, though. I mean, it's kind of weird that, you put all this investment capital into piping all this, and then, why would you want to, you put all that money into it, why would you want to get out of it?
You don't necessarily want to get out of it unless the price gets too high. So, those are some of the things and some of the issues.
Default, though, isn't it only for default?
I'm sorry?
That's
a default
that's
on
a
an
default
out. Yeah.
event.
But I think next week we'll be able to maybe talk to it a little bit further,
Oh,
get some of those answers to those questions for you.
okay.
And is it standard that it's a 25-year contract on bulk water purchases? Is it similar for
Not
Suez and-
unusual.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. The next item is under parking. We have a timeline from Epic. The main thing I want to let people know is that they have contracted with a precast concrete purveyor. The internal group is meeting every 2 weeks, and we're looking at the probable closing down of the Hudson Street lot somewhere near the end of August or the beginning of September, if everything goes according to schedule. I know both the mayor and deputy mayor are at that meeting as well. I don't know if you wanted to add anything in addition.
Good, good.
Yeah, no, I think, obviously the concerns that we had is that we understand Epic had the issue of sourcing the precast concrete. So believe it or not, the state of New Jersey is pretty busy, and they were having a tough time securing it. And when they had gotten some quotes, the quotes have pretty much been above even the higher end of the range of what they expected to pay for it. Luckily, they were able to secure the concrete at a reasonable price. And so when we thought that at the earliest we'll be starting, May, end of May, it's not going to be pushed back by 3 months. But it's still well within the dates that we set out in the contract. So there's no breach of contract there, and it should still keep the project within the initial range.
And I would just add that, to that, aside from that, the benefits of having that meeting also resulted in some little observations of some minor tweaks that had to happen internally with the bike racks, and a little bit of a better implemented approach and design. So that was certainly beneficial, I think, in that little back corner. So I think we resolved some outstanding issues as well, which was good.
I think the biggest relief was that the Hudson Street would only need to be closed for that 1 week, and not beyond that. So basically just the last stages of the construction, when the crane would no longer be able to fit inside the lot. So.
Yeah, and even just the discussion of the logistics and staging those logistics was hugely beneficial, but also kind of comforting to know that we're getting this down to a pretty good science here. So I think we'll be in a good place.
Right. Okay, the next item is the Hudson Street parking. I already discussed that at the beginning of the meeting, just basically that the premium hang tag holders will be able to use the Hudson Street lot, 3 rows of the Hudson Street lot. Budget, we have award of contract for rescue tools for the fire department. This is purchase of Jaws of Life through state contract from the vendor Firefighter 1 out of Sparta, New Jersey, in an amount not to exceed $19,790.10. This will replace tools mounted on the 1998 rescue truck, and they will be mounted on this new tool will be mounted on the new rescue truck, which should be delivered this May. Okay, the next item is award of additional contract for the Engine 31 driveway. When we went out for the bids for the reconstruction of the train station parking lot, in addition, part of that proposal was the paving of Engine 31 driveway for the fire department. We now have funding in the capital budget for the fire department's Engine 31 driveway, so we are recommending that part of the bid be awarded. It's to OnQ Technologies, who was the low bidder of Oradell, New Jersey, in an amount not to exceed $72,912.50. The next item is declaring property surplus, miscellaneous equipment for public works. There are several pieces of equipment that we wish to declare surplus that no longer have viable use, and repairs would be a waste of money. Once they're declared surplus, the equipment will be sold on govdeals.com. The village council, as well as in the books, there are pictures of the equipment, which is in fairly poor shape and not able to be used by the village any longer.
Did we get a lot of use out of this equipment over the years?
Most of our equipment is used for a very long time. If you want, I can find out years, but it actually may be on here. Let me just take a quick look. Most of them are not vehicles, so I don't know offhand when they were purchased, but we usually keep our equipment for 15, 20, 25 years. So.
I mean, it's just interesting because some of it looks like really rusted out, but then there's some other pieces in there that look shiny and new.
It may be, it could be definitely that it's just more expensive to repair than the item is worth. And so at that point, it's not worthwhile to repair it.
Okay.
The next item is the award contract emergency construction for the storm sewer collapse on Heights Road. Heights Road between Fairmount Road and Phelps Road experienced a collapse of the 30-inch diameter storm sewer in it. We need to put in a manhole. 2 contractors were contacted. The low quote was from Conquest Construction of Westwood, New Jersey, and he provided the lower quote. So the request is to do a resolution to allow this procedure to continue, and then we'll continue with the repair of that sinkhole, the collapse of the storm sewer. The next one is a draft ordinance for banning single-use plastic bags. I know Councilman Seaton has worked with REAC and the Green Team too, right?
Yes.
To come up with this, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, so this is the draft, obviously. I think it encapsulates everything that we discussed. As you heard, there is no mandatory fee. This kind of left open-ended, so if somebody wants to charge a fee or they don't want to charge a fee for brown bags, they could do that. And, it's not going to solve climate change, but, on a local level, there's issues with litter in the parks and in our waterways. They clog up storm drains and they cause backups. So, it's an effort to reduce something that's, becoming a bit of a littering nuisance, and it could, like I said, clog up some of our infrastructure.
So I had a couple of questions, and I know that Bob was kind enough to point out that the paper bags are actually less environmentally friendly. And I was a little bit, just wanted to understand more about, because we're taking this on this initiative, but if we're doing something that could hurt, if something is, one is more environmentally friendly and the other is less environmentally friendly, I don't know that, I guess I just want to understand what then is ultimately the benefit if we're doing something that's not really beneficial.
Well, the benefit would be that you ultimately would want to steer people to, cloth bags or like heavier reusable bags so they could wash them and they could bring them back over and over again. I think the mandatory fee on paper bags in a lot of places might go towards, kind of directing people to bring their own bag rather than have to purchase a bag every time they go in. So that's probably why that is there in some other ordinances, but again, it doesn't seem like it would pass here. So if it turns out that, maybe they're using more paper bags, we have to go back and consider that at some point. But ultimately, like I said, the goal would be to just go right to reusable bags, which is why there'd be a 6-month delay time to enact the ordinance, and REAC and the Green Team are prepared to go out to the public and educate people about the use of reusable bags, hand out reusable bags, because there's money in our budget, and we could get stuff for that, and put out a big push, big effort to, you know, help people along, help them understand and it could be coming down from the state too, because I mean,
Right.
New York State, as you heard, just did it. Massachusetts has it in place already. It was considered in New Jersey, so I know there's a bill floating around there. It didn't vote on it, or it didn't pass, so it may come back. It may come back in a modified version, so it could be statewide anyway. So at least Ridgewood would have a jump on that, and
Well,
that's the goal.
I mean, not to bring our legal counsel into this, but Mr. Rogers, I'm asking because it's coming down the state, coming down here, coming down there, but I understood, and I believe I read that in California, there's a lawsuit that the plastic bag industry is suing the state of California or a county in California for banning plastic bags because it's kind of like forcing their industry out and selecting a different industry over. So I'm just kind of curious if you had any thoughts on that.
Only that it's a commerce issue, and it's a constitutional claim with regard to the violation of the Interstate Commerce Act. So I think that's where it comes from.
And
I
that
don't believe it's. I was aware of it, but I'm not certain, but I don't believe it's resolved. But.
Oh, and I think the other piece of it was that their decision to ban it was not based on any scientific fact, and so that it became an arbitrary decision. And
you know, from a constitutional standpoint, as you know, a governmental entity has a right to regulate when it comes to safety and health, and I think that's probably what part of the claim was, that doesn't have that.
all right, thanks.
I just had one question, if I may. Part of retail establishment or retail store includes indoor or outdoor markets and street fairs. We have a farmer's market and we have a street fair every year, and I'm sure they have single-use plastic bags. So are we then going to require them not to provide them for their customers?
Well, they'd have to provide, some other type of bag, either paper bag or no bag, I guess.
And then people would have to bring their own bags to the farmer's market and the street fair?
Unless they sold them.
Yeah.
Unless they sold them.
Okay.
Unless they sold reusable bags or cloth bags there, or they had a paper bag option that people could use.
Okay. So I guess if the council wants to keep this in the ordinance, then I guess we just need to have better information on the advertisement for those two things, to tell people to bring their own bags.
Yeah, because you can't say, well, you can do this, but you can't, and, it's got to be even-handed.
I mean, I guess the only thing you could do is exclude it if you wanted to, but I don't know that that's what you want to do, because it's not a, constant store. It's a, once a week for the farmer's market for about 8 months, and then once a year, we have a street fair. But that's up to you.
I don't think it's just, I don't, if I were the shop owner on the corner, I would say, what's up with that? I would challenge, I would not be, why you would hearing rules to me and not to the rest of the world?
Okay.
I don't know, anybody else can
How do you feel?
feel free.
Okay. So, any other questions? Or are you ready to introduce it as presented? Yes?
No?
Yes?
Tweaks?
Yes?
No?
Everyone says yes?
Yes.
Okay. So we will introduce that. Just writing it down. So the next item is the draft ordinance, the amended ordinance dogs in the village parks. So yes, we do have information about the dog bites. Let me just get to it. In 2017, 6 occurred in the street, 1 at the Wild Duck Pond, and 22 at home. In 2018, 10 in the street, 9 at home. 2019 so far, 2 at home and 1 in the street. Any bites which occur in the dog park in the Wild Duck Pond are considered county property, and the county handles those dog bites, so we don't track them. So they do occur in the street, could be, walking a dog or, something like that. There's nothing specific that says park or, you know, something like that. I don't know if the street would include a park, but it doesn't specifically indicate that. So our draft ordinance, what it's done, it has kept the ones that have been in place for decades prohibiting dogs as is. It's added Looning Park, Kings Pond Park, Maple Park, and then all of the tennis courts at Bel Air, Glen School, North Monroe, Somerville, and Ridgewood High School. We've added where dogs on leash will be permitted. That includes Tabernacle Park, Shedler Property, Denham Trail from Grove Street to Spring Avenue, Grove Park, Gypsy Pond Park, south of the Lakeview Compost Facility. So this is up to the council, how you want to proceed.
I mean, again, I think the important thing here is consistency. So if we can keep it simple in saying, dogs on a leash, right, not to exceed 6 feet, pick up after your dog, dogs on paved areas except for tennis courts, or say, you know, dogs not allowed on athletic fields or athletic, you know, courts, you know, areas. I think that's the most consistent way to apply, because you know, otherwise it just gets a little confusing.
So I just had a quick question, though, on the dog bites. The 6 on the street, 22 at home, 10 on the street, 9 at home, 2 and 2, or whatever it was, 1 and 2. So do we know on the street, because at home, obviously, nature of the beast, but on the street, we don't know the details as to whether or not those dogs were leashed or unleashed. So we don't...
I don't know, no.
So,
I could find out possibly.
Yeah, I think it's an important piece,
Okay.
because I actually used to have a dog that ran away like every day. He was like out on the road and hanging out and doing his thing. It was bad. But anyway, so never bit anyone though. And then the other thing is on here, let's see. I'm agreeing with Mayor that it should be a little bit simpler. And we did receive a little note from a resident with a placard that showed a Boston signage for a dog park. And I actually thought it was so simple that it was perfect. So I think everybody got that email. And my thoughts would be to say prohibited in, I guess, Maple Park and Veteran Memorial Field and tennis courts and such. But I think Twinney Park, Memorial Park at Van Ness Park, Looning and Kings Pond Park should be on the permitted side. And then I also wonder what happened to North Road Park.
Which one? I'm sorry.
North Road Park is not on the list anywhere.
I don't know. We asked for the parks from the Parks and Recreation, and
I didn't hear you.
we asked for the parks from Parks and Recreation, and they didn't do North Road Park. They didn't give us that one, for whatever reason. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know.
A park.
Yeah.
I you know, it kind of struck me because it's one of those like hidden
Right.
things, and it's a park. So I just think that we should simplify and say, here's the rule, here's the, you can, I think, you know, I have the picture here. I have it here. Oh. Visitors, please take notice, dogs on leashes only, clean up after your dog. It's pretty simple, and it just says that. And I mean,
Yeah, just add no dogs in athletic fields.
and no dogs on play fields or on playscapes or athletic fields, and that's sufficient. But I just can't imagine that, you know, honestly, the dogs are out there anyway, so. No, they are, right? They're out there. I mean, the cats and the dogs are out there in the wild.
Okay, so just so I have it correct, what you want is to have them prohibited from Graydon Park and Veterans Field?
So prohibited from,
And the tennis
these are
courts?
just my notes.
Tennis courts, fields, Graydon.
Why don't we do this? Like, why don't we say, they're prohibited from tennis courts, right?
Right.
Okay, wait, let me just change my little color here. So if we say, prohibited from the tennis courts, and the schools are irrelevant, they're not,
Yeah, that's
well,
not.
they have to stay in there, so the schools could stay in our ordinance, and then prohibited from play fields and playscapes. But then we're saying that they are permitted in the following parks. every park with the, but not on the athletic fields. Prohibited from athletic fields and playscapes, tennis courts at Bel Air
What about Graydon?
Yeah, Graydon, right.
and Graydon.
You
Right.
want to
Graydon's
prohibit
on-
them?
Graydon's on the
Graydon would be the only
prohibited
park.
list.
So tennis courts and Graydon,
Yeah.
Right,
you're going to prohibit.
correct. And then dogs shall be permitted.
Okay, so when you see a dog off a leash at a park like Veterans Field, where you're trying to walk around the track, as was
Problem.
mentioned by a resident, what do you do?
Ticket.
Police.
Call the police, and then those people leave with their dog, you know, it's up to you, it's up to you.
It's just my opinion, you know, I mean, the dogs are, a dog could be running, I mean, you have rules posted, and if you up the fine and make it stick and have enforcement, then people have to understand. I mean, if there's, the worst case scenario is we say, you know what, the thing went to the dogs and it doesn't work, so we undo it. You know, I just think that, I mean, it's just my opinion that the dogs are kind of just a part of life and companions, and they're service dogs, and, you know, there are service dogs, and it's dog discrimination.
Okay, so, I know you're on the Fields Committee, Mayor, so I guess we have to take this back to them, right? Because we're going to remove Citizens Park, Maple Field, and Veterans Memorial Field from their list of prohibition.
Right, what the Fields Committee ultimately wanted was no dogs on athletic fields. And I think we accomplished that with this. If we're clear that you can be in a park, but just not on the field itself.
Okay, the way it's worded there, it says prohibited from most parks, including the following
Can't be on an
parks.
athletic field.
One of the
With the
ways,
athletic fields. So that's all I'm asking. Were we also going to say though Maple Fields, because that's turf field, and we
Correct.
don't want,
That's a field.
we want to
that's a-
prohibit?
Right.
Okay,
I think the easy way to do it would be from all athletic or play fields, including but not limited to, when you list those things. List the ones you want. And that way you're covered, and there is some discretion then with play fields or playing fields. We would need a definition of playscape if it was ever used.
Right.
I don't know what that is.
it's a
Playscape
playground.
is a play gym,
Playground.
it's like a gym.
It's like what we
Need a
have out
definition
here.
for it.
We have it right here on Veterans Field. That's a
play-
playscape.
In my mind, that's a playground.
Well, it's a playscape in today's words.
Well, you would want to say playground, playscape, play gym, play equipment. Child, toddler, playgrounds, parks, equipment. I mean, I guess you have to, that's your job.
I haven't
He's ready.
been involved in this, but I'll certainly try and do that, but I think if you, once you get back from the committee, then we'll talk about it and we can see how you might want to better address it.
And then maybe find out why they didn't add North Road Park to that.
I will. But so does this have to go back to the Fields Committee? I have no idea.
I mean, you know, we can have a discussion. The only inconsistency will be if the Board of Ed decides that they don't want dogs on any school property, regardless of whether it's an athletic field or just school grounds. But, I mean, again, that's out of our control. That's not
Okay.
for us to determine.
But then that could be added on to, because it says here, if the Board of Ed said, well, we don't want dogs on any school grounds, curiously, this says, well, Somerville School and Ridgewood High School, but it doesn't add any other schools, it doesn't say anything about BF, so maybe we just have to get the language and incorporate it in.
I mean, I would just even,
Well, those were the tennis courts.
the reference to the
Those
school
are the
properties
tennis
from
courts.
this. Oh, it's the tennis courts there.
Somerville and Ridgewood High School are tennis
Well, that's
courts.
covered.
All of them
sorry.
listed are tennis
Oh,
courts.
I'm sorry, that's
Right.
not how I read that, okay.
Right,
got
they're
it,
all
I
tennis
understood.
courts.
Oh, because those are, okay, understood. Okay, fine, so then we
Okay.
don't really have, they could have their own policy posted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not,
They can have a policy posted, but enforcement of it would have to be in conjunction with this, because that's what would be followed.
so then we would want to
It's like
incorporate,
smoking on school grounds, we legislate that.
so we would want to include then prohibited in our list, the school property fields, but people, I mean, they still bring their dogs, people
I
bring their dogs
suggest
to
you-
Ridgewood High School all the time. They do.
Just to be sure about it, I suggest you make sure you talk to the Board of Ed about it.
Right, we have to
So
do
that conversation is
Right.
had and discussed, and we understand exactly what they want.
Good.
Okay, so are we going to introduce it next week? Do you want me to reach out to the Board of Ed? Do you want to do it as part of do you want Recreation to reach out? You tell me.
I'll talk to them. I'll
Okay.
reach out.
Okay. And then, depending on what they say, we'll introduce that. Okay. So, the next one is review of Ridgewood Community Center rules of conduct. This is two parts tonight. You received the current guidelines, which are basically just a policy and procedures overview, and guidelines such as no candles, no fireworks, no smoking, no obstructing of exit ways. And the new one is truly a code of conduct, which I know Councilman Voigt worked on with the Community Center Advisory Board, so I'll turn it over to him at this point.
Yeah, I think what we have in here is fine. Have you guys looked at it? Yeah, are you okay with it? Or?
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there is some concerns about some people coming into some of these centers who,
Misbehave?
yeah, misbehave is a nice way to put it. And there needs to be some rules and regulations before anything can be enforced, so having this, I think, helps that, so.
I just had a question, and it's probably a question for Matt, but when somebody says that, let me just find it, offensive body odor, I don't really understand who decides body odor must not be offensive, that it disturbs others. I have to tell you, there's some people wear perfume that disturbs me. I don't know what that even, I think that's like a little bit of a open-ended, like, kind of, there's something about that, and I don't know that it's even a correct approach.
I think I might be able to come up with some better wording. I know in the library we deal with things such as that from a behavioral standpoint, from disruption of the library operation and things. So I think we probably can come up with something a little bit better than that.
Okay, all right.
I'll take a look at that.
Okay, so I guess this can be done by resolution
Yes.
next week? Okay, so we'll put that on for next week.
Good, thank you.
The next item is the proposed encroachment agreement for 75 North Van Dien Avenue. This residence currently has a low retaining wall along the front of their property, and when they went to go to repair it, they discovered that the wall was within the village's right-of-way of North Van Dien Avenue. They wish to maintain the wall, and they've submitted a request for an encroachment agreement, which is very minimal. We've done these before for various places in the central business district, as well as some residences, and so this will require a resolution to allow it. Any questions?
Funny, it's such a little wall, too. It's
Yeah,
such a
it
little
is.
piece.
And right now, it looks like it's a little in disrepair, and they want to repair it, so this will just allow them to do so.
You would just think, go repair the wall. That's probably all they wanted to do, and it got stuck. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so attached to this is the execution of the shared services agreement with Bergen County for dredging of Kings Pond. It's an agreement with the Bergen County Mosquito Commission for the dredging of Kings Pond. We need a resolution to authorize the signing of the agreement. And then, although it does say in the last sentence that this will serve as a memorandum of agreement to enter into shared services, probably we should have a shared services agreement as well. And so I guess Mr. Rogers will work on doing that, and then, but we can adopt this by resolution for the execution, and then also we'll have a resolution for the shared services agreement. The next item is a review of next week's meeting. We have a very full meeting. We have the swearing in. We have several proclamations, distracted driving crackdown, Arbor Day, Tree Planting Month, LAX Day, 50th anniversary of Municipal Clerks Week, National Drinking Water Week, Building Safety Month, Older Americans Month, and proclaiming May 1st as the 35th anniversary of the Ridgecrest Apartments. We also have swearing in a probationary firefighter, Thomas Benatende, also Trevor Feckwitz, fire lieutenant and fire captain. We have the public hearing on establishing a cap bank. We have the 2019 budget hearing with the overview of the 2019 budget, the village council comments, and the public hearing. We have adoption of the 2019 budget by resolution. We have a public hearing on ordinances for Ridgewood Water, on the water service connections, and on the fees for the utility for volume rates, and also their water utility capital ordinance. We have resolutions for Ridgewood Water, Title 59 approval and award of contract for annual PFAS laboratory analysis services, authorizing a shared services agreement for the purchase of bulk water from the Passaic Valley Water Commission. Ordinances, we have introduction of the amendment to Chapter 145 fees for the police department, the single-use plastic bags, and the dogs in parks. We have the public hearing for the bond ordinance for the general capital, amending Chapter 265 vehicles and traffic, parking in all parking lots in the central business district and at the train station after 3 p.m., the smoking ordinance, the landscapers and landscaping services, and also the fees for landscapers and landscaping services, amending Chapter 156 for outdoor cafes, a bond ordinance for the parking utility capital, and amending the parking in the Hudson Street parking lot. Resolutions, we have Title 59 approval and award of contract for restoration of concrete wall and drainage ditch on Hillcrest Road. Title 59 approval and award of contract for the coffee concession at Ridgewood train station. Award contract under state contract furnishing and delivering unleaded gasoline and unleaded diesel fuel. Award of contract under state contract, parts and related services, fleet division. Award contract under state contract for tires. Award contract under state contract for rescue tools for the fire department. Award contract under Bergen County Cooperative Purchasing Program, bituminous concrete and various road repair materials. Award contract under Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission Cooperative Pricing System, sewage transfer pumps for the Andover Pump Station. Award of contract emergency construction for the storm sewer collapse. Award additional contract paving of Engine 31 driveway. Authorizing a change order for furnishing and delivering of cured-in-place pipelining services, authorizing execution of a shared services agreement for the dredging of Kings Pond, authorizing an encroachment agreement for 75 North Van Dien Avenue, dissolving the Ridgewood Construction Board of Appeals, accepting a donation to the Ridgewood Community Center, declaring property surplus for public works, and establishing community center rules of conduct. Were there any resolutions, either for Ridgewood Water or for the regular ones that you want off of the consent agenda? No. Okay.
Okay, we'll go back to public comments, not to exceed 5 minutes per person.
Eugene Lorenzi, 202 South Van Dien. I'm coming back here as the anniversary of May 8th, when you won the election, and the next day, when you celebrate in this court, I give you 16 pictures of the damage on my sidewalk. Then now you all pretended not to release it to me for one reason or the other, because Deputy Mayor said to me at that day, do you have a copy? I said, yes, I do have some copy. I don't have all the copy, but I do have an original copy. So I would like to you, Mr. Mayor, which I spoke to you last week, and you said that you were going to do something to release the picture to me. Now, this week I'm here again to see if this promise, after all the other promises I never had, not even one line of writing or phone call directly to me to tell me something about what you want to do. So I would like to have an answer tonight. What is that you're going to do about it as a mayor?
Public comment, sir, so.
Yes.
Good evening again, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I just took a look at the village code with respect to the dog ordinance. I know the mayor said that he's going to contact the Board of Education. However, the way I read the village code is that there are two separate ordinances.
Ordinance 1689 covers the prohibition of dogs on school property, and the existing ordinance covering the dog in public parks is 3600. What I believe you are doing is revising 3600, so I don't think there's any need to contact the public schools. They are covered by a separate ordinance which you are not touching. So I don't think they have any say-so in what you are doing. Whether they want dogs on the village's athletic fields or not, they have no business having any input to that. They're covered by 1689, which according to the code is a separate ordinance which prohibits dogs on all public school grounds. What you are doing is talking about revising an ordinance for public parks. There's no mention in 3600 of any fields that the school deals with at all. So I don't think there's any need to get their input. You're on your own. Thank you very much.
Well, all right, we'll talk about it.
I actually just think that that was my confusion.
We'll talk about it later on.
Yeah, I misread it. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? All right, we'll close public comments. Did you want to address the?
Yeah, just, I think, certainly, the council is a legislative body with regard to the use of property in town. Whether you want to get information or get the opinion or a feel for what the Board of Ed considers to be important is certainly up to you. It's not as if they have a say in what gets legislated, but they may have some insight into it to be able to help you understand what they would like and whether or not you want to consider that. So that was the reason for contacting them, not to ask them what they should do. Now, it may impact it may impact the other ordinance, but as we talk about fields and as we talk about playing fields and ball fields, I think they have an idea that, maybe there's something going on at the Board of Ed buildings where they feel that, or Board of Ed facilities where they feel that the ordinance or the way the law is written for them is not completely, clear or, on point. So that would be the reason. That's the only reason why it was suggested.
And my only concern is we adopted this amended fields policy, and so I think we just need to make sure that that wording is correct and, make sure that it mimics what we're going to adopt. That's all.
Yep. And Mr. De Lorenzo, to answer your question, you were asking if we had the pictures. As I was talking to you last time, the deputy mayor came, and then what I had promised you was I was going to look into whether or not she still had the pictures. She came and started talking to us. I think you got your response from her then, that I don't believe she had the pictures, correct?
So that night, and it's borne out in the minutes, I asked, are these mine to keep? Are these ours to keep? And do you have your own set? You indicated yes, and I passed the pictures on, and I continue to try to understand where they went, if in fact with a surface. Nobody's withholding anything on purpose. I asked that question for a reason. I asked that question because there's a lot of activity, a lot of paper. No, sit, you're done. You can't just start calling out. I asked that specific question for a very good reason. I wanted to make certain that I was not taking your only copies of those photos in the event that in this, lots of paper up here, sometimes things just get mixed up. I'm going to continue to look, but I asked that question. You said they were mine to keep, they were ours. You had your own copy. So that's in the minutes. I double-checked. I just wanted to make sure. I do sincerely apologize. It's okay. Don't call out. Don't call out. Don't call out, please.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. With that, take a resolution to go into closed session.
Be resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on on April 3rd, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter, as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session be held on the caucus room of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. And be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include health, barn, and police pistol range, legal contract negotiation, matters to include Green Acres diversion, and personnel matters to include appointment of professionals, boards and committees, and emergency services. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nope.